Welcome to the Artist Pivot Podcast. I am your host, Ayana Major Bey, and in this episode, I sit down with the multifaceted Kaisha Huguley, actor, host, and digital creator. Kaisha opens up about her untraditional path into musical theater, her move to New York, and the impacts of the pandemic on her self-discovery journey. We dive into the joys and challenges of performing, the societal pressures faced by Black women in the entertainment industry, and discover we both one day want to reach the offer-only club and not have to audition for roles. We also explore the concept of feeling settled, the importance of alignment in career choices, and the impact of New York City on our growth as people. Kaisha shares her journey of pivoting from theater to becoming a successful digital creator on platforms like TikTok and Instagram, and provides valuable advice for artists on navigating the industry without losing sight of their values. Let's dive in. Come take a listen and let your inner artist play, creating your dreams step by step every day. If you're feeling lost and don't know what to do, always remember that you can pivot to the Artist Pivot. The Artist Pivot. Hello, and welcome to the Artist Pivot Podcast. I am your host, Ayana Major Bey, a multi-hyphenated artist, and I am glad you are here. A couple housekeeping things before we get into the conversation. First, to keep up to date on all the things happening with the podcast, subscribe to the monthly newsletter at ayanabey.com/podcast. Second, to show your support for the show, you can get podcast merchandise at ayanabey.com/merch. And third, please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and share this with at least one person. Enjoy the episode. We Audition is the video chat community where actors can audition, self-tape, rehearse, and get expert industry advice. Get instant self-tape readers through video chat, browse through the dedicated actor meditations, podcasts, and books, meet casting directors in the virtual green rooms, and also make money by becoming a reader for other actors. If you join We Audition and use code PIVOT, you will receive a 25% discount on your membership. Link in the show notes. All right, y'all. So today on the podcast, I am so excited to say that joining me is actor, host, and digital creator, Kaisha Huguley. Hello there. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. I just have to tell you, it's Huguley.
Huguley. Thank you for correcting me. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you.
And I want to start with my two favorite questions.
Okay.
Number one would be, have you had enough water today? Like, how are your hydration levels?
It's giving dehydrated. It's giving, I should have had at least 32 ounces already because it's 3:00. I am fully dehydrated.
Oh!
But I've had coffee. I have had coffee. So that means I'm double dehydrated.
Understood. Thank you for being honest. Yes. Thank you for that.
Listen, yes. I'm not even going to sit here and lie about it because I drink coffee more than I drink anything else. And I know it's an issue. And listen, we are a work in progress.
Yes, we are. We are a work in progress. Yes. So my second question to you would be, if I were to text you and say, how are you doing? How's your day going? How you feeling? But you could only respond in emojis only, what would you text me?
I would send the salute emoji because I feel like I am very much in service mode. Like I am very much like having a lot of deadlines and deliverables that I have to do right now. And so it's just about hitting deadlines. And so I'm kind of here with it. I'm like reporting for duty.
Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I'll be reply back. Do you need any help? You need any help with those deliverables?
Listen, I'm not even going to hold you. I kind of do. Because, when you're running a business, right now I'm a team of one. I usually have a virtual assistant. She's taking some time off right now. And so, I actually do need help because there's a lot going on.
Understood, sis. Understood. But y'all, I wanted to bring Kaisha on because there was an Instagram post, a story
Mm-hmm.
that you
Mm-hmm.
told that had me that like touched my soul. That like was like, wow, I 1000% relate to that. And it was about our relationship with our acting career and
Yeah.
reevaluating how we pursue, reevaluating our relationship with it. And so that's what we're going to
Yeah.
talk about. So I
Right.
want to start with my first question is like, first of all, how did you get into acting in the first place?
So I have a really untraditional path into musical theater. I find the longer that I'm in this industry that, people can come into it in a variety of different ways. But,
Yeah.
I started pretty late when it comes to pursuing this art form. I started acting at 25.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I started acting was I won an $80,000 wedding from a theater in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And when I won this wedding, I was working for the U.S. Department of State at the time. So I was a government employee. I was pursuing a career and I wanted to eventually work in the Foreign Service. And so I thought that that's what I wanted to dedicate my life's work to. And then I win this wedding from a theater. And in addition to winning the wedding, they gave me tickets to see a production of Fiddler on the Roof. And so when I went to go see the show, I was like, wow, that looks like so much fun. Like, what if I could do that? And then something just kind of clicked. And I was like, wait, maybe I can. So I started doing community theater 2 months after my wedding in DC. And I did that for about 2 years while still working my full-time job at the State Department. And then I made the leap to move to New York in May of 2017. And I moved here to go to conservatory. I did conservatory for 18 months. And then after graduating, I started auditioning and, trying to book work. And I was able to book some regional gigs and, kind of do the things. And then we ran into the panorama, the pepperoni pizza,
yes.
the pandemic. So that shook things up a bit.
Yeah, sure did.
We have been trying to figure it out ever since. Yeah.
Understood. Okay, so with that, how have you managed to, in essence, pivot and like start to really figure it out because of the panini we were in? And like I personally feel that the industry is still trying to recover from
For sure.
that. And nobody really wants to be like, oh, it's fine. We're fine. No, we're not. We're still recovering.
No, we are still recovering. And it might be a few more years before it feels like we're not in survival mode anymore. This audition season especially was really treacherous. Like I am used to audition seasons being full of auditions and I had a handful and it's July, which is not typical of an audition season. And so I think that there are a lot of things happening after the strike last year. And then, of course, still just trying to recover from the pandemic. But to answer your question in terms of how I have pivoted, if you will. So theater is something that I am very much still wanting to do. I have just shifted my mindset to think about it in a way that I do want this art form in my life. The way that it comes into my life and the way that I focus on it just has to be different. Because prior to the pandemic, I had a part-time job and I was auditioning very, very regularly with, I didn't have representation the whole time before the pandemic, but, I would go to the open calls, EPAs, ECCs, all the things. And then during the pandemic, I got representation and I also got a full-time job because none of us were working during that time because of COVID. And so I got a full-time job so that I wouldn't have to worry about where my income was coming from. And so in the midst of me, getting a full-time job, when I was working part-time, actually hired me full-time. So that was like really lovely for me. I started being more serious about creating content on the internet. And so I'm doing prioritizing content creation. Things are going well for me on TikTok, and eventually things go well for me on Instagram. And so I start building that over a period of time into a stream of income. And so now I'm like currently juggling the three areas of my life, if you will. I have a full-time job that is my consistent, steady paycheck that pays my bills. And then I'm pursuing all kinds of opportunities as a digital creator where I'm making money from social. And then I'm also still actively auditioning and networking so that I can book projects in theater and beyond. So we kind of are, we're doing all three.
Yes, doing all three. And like really, truly being a multi-hyphenate in many different aspects, including the arts. And so do you find that now, because you have other things to focus on than just theater, than just auditioning, than just trying to book the next contract, that kind of frees up your like energy and your brain space to be like, well, whatever comes to me kind of comes to me?
Yes and no. So yes, in the sense that I'm not worried about how my bills are going to be paid. That I'm very grateful for. I never liked the idea of not knowing where my money was coming from. I also am the kind of person, I've had a job since I was 14. And growing up in DC, I mean, I've just been working. I'm so used to working that when I was working part-time and, doing theater gigs in between, it was uncomfortable for me for a while because I'm just not used to this kind of lifestyle. And I also just very much don't believe that an artist should have to starve in order to do what they love. And so in my mind, I'm like, I should be compensated well for my talent because it's worth paying for. And so I am very grateful for I wish I had more time. I would love to ultimately work for myself and do that full time. And so that's what I'm building towards. So I would love my business to be my full-time job and then only balance that in acting. But, we got to work to build.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That working to build. And so that also makes me like want to ask you the question of, with this working to build, was there ever any resistance to it? So like, I'm going to take myself for an example of like, for a while, honestly, the pandemic is what like forced me to change and like shifted everything. But it was like, there was a resistance of like, but no, I'm an actor and this is what I want to do. So like everything else can like sit over there in the corner, right? And so but now that you are building something that is going to eventually support you, was there any resistance to that before you started?
Yes and no. I think that on the yes side, it's like, wait, but this is still my dream. I still want to do this. But on the no side, it's like, no, I want it all. I want to be able to do all the things. And there was a time period in my life where I put theater at the center. I put it on a pedestal. It was like, I have to do this and only this. And that is just truly not, I don't resonate with that anymore. Like, I also am just not interested in working any contracts that aren't going to truly be something that will help me build in some kind of way. It needs to be at least artistically, financially, or some type of career move. Like, if it's not checking one of those buckets, I'm honestly just not interested. There was a time where I would literally audition for any and everything. I don't want to be in every musical. I don't want to be in every play. But because ultimately I want those roles to go to the people who want to be in them. It would be a really I think it's the worst thing when you book a job and you really didn't want it and you take it. And there was someone who had that as their dream role. So I want to make space for the people who want those roles so that I can have space to have the roles that I want.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I want to pick up on what you said about theater being the center of your life. And then how you're like, that doesn't work for me anymore. And I think that there's a lot of actors now who have realized, oh, this was the center of my world, including me. I have my hand raised. But now that doesn't work for me anymore. That doesn't feel good. That doesn't work for me financially. That just doesn't work for my life. And to also I think grieve that as well. Grieving, oh, this is no longer the center of my world. Yes, it's still a dream that I'm holding. Yeah. But it's no longer the center of my world.
What?
Yeah. Right. Like, I'm just so shocked that I'm here, because if you had asked me even 5 years ago if I would be saying the things that I'm saying, I probably wouldn't believe you, because I really did put theater on such a pedestal. And in my 20s, I was willing to deal with more BS than I am now. And now that I'm, approaching my mid 30s, I'm like, I'm not doing that. I can't. I don't think that my time is best suited not being in situations that don't feel good. And that truly just aren't in alignment. I'm like, it has to be in alignment, because whenever I take a job or I do something that is not in alignment, I regret it every single time. And so I'm trying to learn from those mistakes, and I'm trying to be smarter about my decisions when I sign on for projects, because ultimately at the end of the day, I have to do the job if I sign the contract. So I want to make sure that if I'm signing contracts and I'm agreeing to do a certain job, that it's a job I'm really eager and on board to do. Because if not, then I'm going to regret it and I'm going to be miserable. I've been in contracts where I've been like, okay, when is this over? Like, I literally, a contract that I had some time ago, I had a calendar, and I lied to you not, I would take my highlighter and I would literally mark off the day whenever I got home from rehearsal, because I was counting the days to be back from that contract. And so after that, I was like, okay, let's not let this happen again. And let's make sure the projects are in alignment before we say yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, I'm so sorry that happened. Like, I'm like, no, you never want to, sometimes you don't want a contract to end, but the fact that you were like, I cannot wait for this to end. When am I going home? Is like, one of the worst feelings.
It's the worst. It is the worst. And I'm like, I don't ever want to experience that again. And ultimately, like, it was a combination of it was sort of, and the crazy thing about that contract is I thought it was an alignment. Okay. So I made the decision thinking I was making a good decision for myself. And ultimately, I think it did and will continue to help my career. But it just, once I started to do the job, I'm like, oh, this isn't for me.
Okay. Understood. But also now you know, like, you've learned. You're like, oh, got it. Lesson learned. Okay, we could tick that off.
Yes.
Not doing that again.
That.
Yes.
That.
Yes. That. And I think that but that also comes with time. That also comes with, like you said, knowing yourself, so that you can also be like, that's not in alignment with what I want. Like,
right.
That's not what I want. And being okay with that. Because I think that also feeds into the unfortunate scarcity mentality that does kind of encapsulate this career of like, well, if I don't take it, what about this? Or if I don't do, and it's like, well, what's in alignment with what you want to do as a person? And like, what's meant for you, I'm a firm believer of what's meant for you is meant for you. So if you say no to this contract you don't actually want to do, then you've made room for the yes for the contract you do actually want to do, or the project, or whatever you want to create. It's coming out of the scarcity mentality of like, well, I guess I should have taken that contract because what if?
Right. Oh, I just, one of the things that came up as you were saying that was, accepting things in alignment based on who you are. I think I'm trying to figure out who I am. I know the 20-something-year-old version of Kaisha who was eager to put theater at the center of her life. The 33-year-old version of Kaisha is eager to put the things at the center of her life that feel best for her. And because I feel like I'm kind of in a phase where I'm like, I don't think I fully know myself. The pandemic changed me in ways I could have never imagined. And I'm trying to get to know this new version of myself and be accepting of this new version. And that has been difficult, if I'm just being so honest, because I'm like, Kaisha, stop being a sucker. Get back in there and put theater at the center of your life and just deal with it, and you'll push through and make it. And that just doesn't feel good. I was talking to my therapist about it, and my therapist, she made this comment to me, and I was like, oh, she said, Kaisha, every time you talk about theater, you never are happy. And I said, what are you talking about? She's like, every time you do a contract, every time you're talking about some kind of process that you have to go through with auditioning, like especially like if I'm in callbacks or final callbacks or something, you don't ever sound happy about it. You always sound miserable. And I was like, yeah. And I think that what it ultimately comes down to is that I don't necessarily enjoy the process, especially what Black actors typically have to go through in this space. I don't enjoy the process of auditioning and the yo-yoing of like, hey, we'll bring you back for this. And then you hear nothing. I don't enjoy any of that. I literally cannot stand it. But
Same.
I keep thinking about when I go onto a stage and how I light up and what I feel inside when I'm actually performing and getting to do the thing that I love. That
part.
10 out of 10. Everything else, 3 out of 10. So I'm trying to figure out how to get, to the place. Like, if I'm just being so for real, I want to be offer only. Like, I'm at the point where I'm like,
oh, that's a dream.
Call me. Just call me and let me know.
And that's on Amen. Offer only is where I've told my agents, we have to get to offer only. Figure out how we get there. How do we get there?
Let's stop playing these games. Like, we know I can sing this note. I can't sing this one. Like, just send the contract.
Thank you. Thank you. I just want the email. Let me review the contract. I send it back. I'll see y'all in rehearsal.
See you in rehearsal. That's where I'm at with it.
I understand that. I completely understand that. Yeah, the whole getting to the stage, I don't like that part. Being on stage, like you said, I highly recommend. 10 out of 10. Love it. Gives me chills. What I live for. Yes, that opening, that orchestra starts at the beginning. I'd be like, oh, the show's gonna start. Hey, y'all ready? Yes.
Love it.
But the 3-ring circus, no.
Ghetto.
It's straight ghetto. Okay?
It is.
Like, what? It's a 3-ring circus. And like, I think it also is just like hearing you talk. I think we're both on the same wavelength of like, it's a 3-ring circus and they make me jump through hoops, but I'm not going to jump through the hoops anymore. I'm choosing not to jump through the hoops. Like, so you're going to do what you're going to do, but I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And I'm going to make my life the center of my life. And everything else is going to revolve around you as a person, but also discovering who you are. And I completely agree with that. In the pandemic, I'm a completely different person than the Ayana in 2019. I'm a completely different person. And I'm also accepting her now. Like, I'm accepting this version of me. I'm accepting my age at 37. I'm accepting like not giving into societal pressures and like different things of like, I'm just getting started. Like, if you really think about it, our brains don't fully congeal until 25.
Correct.
So I'm only like 12 years into this adulthood thing, right?
There we go. Love that. I love that reframe. Yeah.
I'm just getting started, y'all. And so
just getting started.
We're just getting started. But we also do live in a society that pressures women and on double on top of that, Black women to like achieve it all by like 22. And you're like, I barely graduated college. Like, come on. Like, what's happening?
That's I'm not even going to hold you. It has been really challenging for me I have never been self-conscious about my age ever growing up until recently. And I think it's because of some of the societal pressures, but also some of the industry pressures about like how you look when you're taping for different things and going in for different projects. And also too, like what essence you bring into a room for certain roles. I feel like my essence is so mature because I grew up pretty quickly and I had to because of how I grew up. And so because of that, and because I am 33, I think that people sense, oh, this is a grown woman. And there's a part of me that feels slightly self-conscious about it. The societal pressure way I feel self-conscious about it is because by societal standards, I should be settling down and I should have 2.5 kids with my husband and like we should have a house and, a driveway and a backyard, you know what I mean? And what's so wild is that before pursuing acting, we had, some of those things. Like we had a house and we were established in DC and we both had government jobs and we both had master's degrees and all the things. And we got all of that and we realized that we weren't happy and that wasn't enough. We realized that our careers truly were not satisfying. And so we had to start over and switch it up because it was like we followed these paths thinking that, for one, us having stability was going to bring happiness. And that was only part of it. Because yes, while we loved our house, we loved, what we were able to achieve, it wasn't enough. It wasn't challenging enough. And so now, being where we are, my husband and I will be married 10 years in January. And
congratulations.
So as you might, thank you. Listen, as you might be able to imagine, everyone, so many people have wondered and asked, when are you having kids? Because we've been married for 10 years. It's like we should have done that by now. And my husband is a student. He's going to be a doctor next year, a doctor of physical therapy. He's going to Rutgers. So excited for him. Listen, I'm about to be a doctor's wife. Love that for me.
You are. Hair flip for that.
Listen, I can't wait. But in thinking about all of that, I'm like, I wish people would just kind of back off a little bit. It's like, let us figure it out. We don't want to add a child. First of all, we don't know if we want children. But number two, we don't want to add a child into a situation if we are still trying to figure us out, because that'll make it even more difficult, because now you have a whole nother human being that you have to consider and care for. And I see the Broadway mamas doing it. I see them hustling. I don't know if I need that right now. I'm like, let me get a couple of shows like that under my belt so I can see what it's like. I can't imagine getting out of a show and then being like, I gotta go take care of a baby. Like, what? So I don't know. I think my age has been something I've been thinking about a lot more lately, because genuinely for myself, I do want a certain kind of lifestyle. Yeah. But I want to be comfortable with the fact that my journey is what it is, versus being like, I should have done it sooner. And that is specifically really hopeful. It's also hard. I just have to say, this is such an unpopular opinion, but I feel like one of the phrases and you said it a little bit earlier, that people say all the time is, what is for you won't miss you. I hate that phrase. Yeah. Okay, tell me why. I hate it so much. Yeah. I really hate it so much. And I think I hate it for me because when it comes to theater, I'm like, all right, what's for me won't miss me. What's for me? Where is the job? Because I'm not working consistently. So are you saying that as a Black woman, there's nothing for me? Because ain't nothing coming my way when it comes to theater at the moment. And I probably sound so bitter. And to be honest, I am a little bit. But I struggle with that because, what's for me won't pass me. It's different for Black women in theater. It just really is. And sometimes I really do feel like certain things pass us because of the systems of oppression that exist. And so I really want to believe and have that hope and optimism that what's for me is going to be coming my way. It's just really been difficult for me in theater because I feel like I'm getting constantly passed over. And I don't know what to do with that.
I hear you. And I do understand that, because I question the same thing. Well, what is for me? What is for me? And so I think, yes, especially in the theater, it's like, right, well, what is for us? And I think that there's some onus, not all on us, not at all. But I think there is some portion where it's like, well, I acknowledge that this whole system is crap. And so you're passing me over. So now how can I be responsible to be like, well, let me just kind of create my own. And I think you're doing that with your content creation. Like you are doing that. And with teaching and with different things that you do, I think it is that acknowledgement of like, oh, y'all are playing games over here. You are passing me over, but I'm going to go do this. And so for me, I think it's it won't pass you by doesn't necessarily mean in one thing. like,
that's fair.
You know, like in one thing. And I think there's also that, right, what is for me? But I think that's also for you to find out, for you to like listen, sit down, meditate, be in alignment going, that's not it. Oh, but that's it. And so like you're going to literally be the only one to figure that out. Just like, you know, I'm currently doing the same thing, but it's like, right, what is for me? And acknowledging that sometimes you don't even know. Like, there's also that, like, we really do have to acknowledge, I don't know. And that's okay. And that's okay. It's okay.
You know, it's so funny because I felt like I had such a strong sense of self prior to the pandemic. And that really shook things up, especially when it comes to like my identity as an artist. So I was in a coaching session with a career coach about fear specifically. And he asked me to name some dream roles. And so I said, you know, that I would love to play Nala in The Lion King. And one of the things that if people know anything about me, I want to be the villain in every story, right? Like I want to be Ursula. I want to be Papa Gay. I want to be Persephone. Like those are my roles. That's where I live. So when I had given him this whole spiel and then I said, I would really like to play Nala. He was like, that's so interesting that you said Nala, because I thought you would have said one of the hyenas. And when he said it, something in my spirit just lit up. Because I had for so long put myself in the category of, I want to play Nala. I want to sing Shadowland. I want to be Heather Headley too. Like, you know what I mean? Like I have been idolizing that image when really what is a little bit more in alignment for me would be the hyena.
Right.
If we're talking about the world of Lion King in this show. So I do think that there is some level of grief that has to happen at a certain point, like grieving images, ideals, certain dreams, and being more realistic with what you actually want. Because ultimately, would I even, like if I were to book Nala on Broadway, listen, I'm going to tell everybody I'm going to be excited as hell. Okay. Like I'm going to be really happy. But I think that it would be a completely different thing if I was a hyena. Like, I think I would literally be so excited to come to work. I would have there would be a different energy about me because that truly is a little bit more in alignment.
Yeah. Yeah. Understood. I understand that. 100%. And so like you said, with that new energy, you would have approached, you know, if you were, let's say you were to book Nala now, you'd be like, oh, great. Like, let's do it. But it'd be a completely different energy than playing a hyena, which you're like, actually, wait a minute. I didn't think about that. I didn't think about that. I love that. I love that for you. Like discovering that. But I also think that's part of like you discovering yourself. And I wanted to pick up, before I ask you another question, I just wanted to pick up on what you said about being settled, quote unquote. And, you know, how people are like, oh, you guys need to settle and you know, mark off the things like a house and a this and a that and all of that. But I have recently discovered, and you can take this or leave this, that being settled means being settled in yourself. Period.
Come on.
Full stop.
I love that.
Oh, you need to settle. I am settled in myself. I am settled in who I am. And if I'm not, there are things that I'm figuring out, but I am settled.
I think settled looks different for so many different people. And when people say it to you, it's like, it should look like this. But no, I'm pretty settled in the fact that I'm a multi-hyphenate and I need this variety of a life that I have in order to feel some kind of fulfillment. That's what it is.
That part. You're settled in that. And variety, like
I love this.
Quote, I'm probably gonna butcher. Wait, Lord, I don't even know. But don't they say like variety is the spice of life? Isn't there some type of quote out like that or something like that?
Listen, I love it.
Right.
Because it is.
Yes. You are settled in the fact that like, oh no, I'm a multi-hyphenate and I need this variety. And it brings me joy. And it brings others people joy. Right. So like, okay. So my next question to you would be, what would be your word of advice, your nugget of wisdom to other artists and creatives pivoting and navigating this crazy industry that we wake up and choose to do. Sometimes I'm like, wait a minute. Are you crazy? Like, what? Like, you're choosing to navigate this thing.
This. Oh, my goodness. You know, when I was in graduate school, I was pursuing arts management. Mm-hmm. And I had a graduate professor tell me, because it was then where things towards theater had started to brew, but it hadn't manifested yet.
Yeah.
I was like, I kind of want to act. And I had mentioned it to her. And I had said, like, hey, I think I want to like try to like act and be on Broadway and like go to New York. And she was like, don't do that. You'll go to New York and you'll end up being so frustrated and you'll want to quit and you'll end up leaving, because that's what had happened to her. And so, of course, because of the person that I am, I was like, well, I'm moving to New York because I'm going to give it a try. And the past couple of seasons have been very frustrating. And I actually had a thought to myself, like, oh, this is why she said that. She probably got hurt and had some experiences that really put a bad taste in her mouth. And so what I was hearing was that hurt coming from her.
Yeah.
And now being in a space where I feel like I'm hurting and it's not going in the way that I want, I think my greatest piece of advice for people would be, it's still better that you tried.
Ooh, yeah.
It's still better that you tried. Because ultimately, if I had never tried, I would not have experienced even half of the things that I've had the chance to experience living in this city and pursuing this art form. I mean, I literally started multiple other kinds of careers because of me wanting to pursue theater. And although like I do still want to be on Broadway, I still want to see those dreams in terms of being on the stage realized, there have been some other things that have come from that pursuit. And I can't, like, it's easy to sit down and be like, oh, I regret it. It should have gone this way. But, you know, it hasn't. And that doesn't mean it's a loss.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And even hearing you say that, like, try, you just have to try. I think that's also linked to what's meant for you. Because if you don't try, you'll never know. And so I think the trying is like, oh, no, I'm allowing these things to meet me. I'm allowing myself to discover what is for me. Oh, well, listen, I'm going to try at least. I'm like, if it doesn't put me in harm's way, I'm going to try.
That you may as well. And I mean, living in New York, this city is full of opportunity. There's a reason why people say if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere, because you literally have access to every industry at the highest level. This city does have some things about it that will really make you question whether you're supposed to be living here or not. Because when New York, literally insane, ratchet, ghetto, all the things. But when New York's, like when it's actually doing the New York thing in the way that you love, you're like, I'm making it in New York. A lot of people can't say that. A lot of people cannot say that they have had success here. And for those of us that can, I don't know, there's something special about it.
There very much is. There very much is. And it's not for the faint of heart. I will tell you that. It's not for the faint. There has to be something on the inside of you that is like, no, but I have to try and I have to be here and I have to navigate this. But it's in you.
Right.
Like it's in you.
That.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Oh, Kaisha, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you so much for sharing. You're welcome back anytime.
Have me back.
Listen, okay, because I'm going to start these little Patreon conversations, so we could dive even a little bit more when I start uploading these Patreon conversations.
Listen, we'll have some tea to share on the Patreon.
We'll have some real tea to share on the Patreon now. All right. So, where can everybody find you out here on the internet streets?
Yes, on the internet streets, you can find me on every platform at Kaisha Creates. That's Kaisha Creates. I'm literally everywhere. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Threads, Snapchat, whatever exists, I'm out there as Kaisha Creates.
All of the above. And is Snapchat still going? I never had a Snapchat.
Listen, I have one. I don't really get on there, but Hey, I got the handle.
Right. That's it. You got the handle. Don't worry, y'all. I will put all of that in the show notes so it's easily clickable. And then, Kaisha, before I let you go, I must say to you that I acknowledge you, I celebrate you, and I uplift you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
You're so very welcome. You're so very welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor.
This podcast is produced by Ayana Major Bey. Editor is Kieran Niemand. Theme song lyrics written by Ayana Major Bey and Melissa Victor, with performance by Ayana Major Bey. Please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast wherever you listen to podcasts.
Part of the Boundless Audio Podcast Network.